humanity is in a place of great uncertainty. AI can impact and touch up to 70% of the jobs that exist within the next 5 years. The reason why I'm not wearing a white collar rather than a black collar is because those are all, especially white collar jobs. And whilst universities are in the business of charging for their big brains, they said we need as educators to provide calm to guide the ship and to not let the talking heads steer us maybe into a dystopia rather than a utopia.
The following is a long open conversation with Brandon Donelly, founder at Intellect Horizon. We got a chance to sit and talk about many topics, like how has been his journey in innovation from Europe to Americas to Southeast Asia? How has been his entanglements with Web3 and artificial intelligence? And how is his current work at Intellect Horizon and beyond? This is On the Long with FVR podcast. If you like this thing, feel free to like and subscribe and the country to the channel on the description below. And now with y'all, Brandon Donelly.
There's a tendency to have it a little bit on the crazy side, so with all of the messages.
But craziness is good, isn't it?
Craziness is good for the soul, sometimes bad for the sanity.
Yeah, that's true. It's like you sometimes have to contain the craziness. But talking about craziness, I guess we can start.
Can we?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes, let me do this. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of On the Long with FVR. Today we have Brandon. Thanks for doing this, man.
Hi, I guess I'm Brandon.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, tell me, I'm interviewing you. Where did it all begin?
It was at the beginning.
And when you were a child is when you knew that you wanted to ask people questions.
Most likely, like everybody who was asking questions on themselves, the rhetorical questions, and then the parents were like, okay, you're asking too many whys. But people will be watching you, they will be like, wait a second, is this the same guy who is right now promoting this hackathon going on? So I want to ask you, can you tell us a little more about yourself?
I was going to say, who's watching the watchers? That's the bigger issue.
Yeah.
No, we're going to have an uncomfortable silence there. So, the hackathon, are you asking about specifically Intellect Horizon?
Pretty much.
Awesome. So, fortunately, I know the answer to this one. Mm-hmm. Intellect Horizon is a free conference that has speakers from this institution, these hallowed halls of academia, from the Asia School of Business, but also from MIT proper. We have Cornell, Oxford, even Xbox is joining in. It's running local hackathons here and across 2 other universities, both in the United States and Canada.
That sounds like such a huge endeavor. So, how many weeks was done into the making of this?
We've had a whopping 12 weeks. And we said it'd be cool if we could get a couple hundred people together to talk about technology, because if we had that ability, we might be able to have some fun whilst making the world a better place. Little did we know, as the narrator would say, we had no idea of the scope and the imagination of the population that wanted to learn more.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Usually that narrator can be Morgan Freeman, but nowadays it's up to the grabs.
We're giving it to you for the job, right, Fabian?
Come on. I need to earn the job.
Well,
now, given this particular endeavor, I believe that there were some universities that were more open to collaborate than others. Can you tell us how was the daily grind?
So when we were looking at who did we want to have speak and how did we want to run a cyber clash, it was quite a free-form project. So the inception of the event is, right, let's talk about the future of technology. We see this within XR, which is what we see, what we hear, AI, which is what we think that we know, and Web3, which is more amorphous and ambiguous one, which is how can we trust any of it. So we started out like a proper influencer by talking about all of us on LinkedIn, pretending like we were authorities on the matter, and got to work with some different stakeholders that are industry experts. So you have Rohit Rai, that was originally acquired by Apple, and then he escaped the orbit of Apple to create DragonScale, which is a Web3 security company. He said, okay, Brandon, I'm in, let's do this thing, let's have some fun. And I said, awesome. Then I talked to here at ASB the Sanjay Sarma, who's the CEO of El Presidente. And
That's Spanish for president.
Yeah, God, Emperor, King of Asia School of Business. And then he brought Joe Cherian, who is the Deputy CEO. Lots of people with very impressive titles that wanted to ask Latin for it is the quare, right? The why. Why are we educating? What does AI have that's going to change 1,000 years of pedagogy? We're like, okay, cool. So we've got a physical location that wasn't part of the plan, but let's roll with it. Then we've got some people that are talking about Web3. Great. How can we make this much more accessible within the media? Talk to my friend Douglas, who is the head of in-store for Xbox, manages over 40,000 stores, which is quite impressive. And he's like, I know a thing or two about AR, VR. I said, okay, Douglas, you're in. Let's do that thing. And also is at this event called Collision Con with DragonScale and with Rohit. We met Aaron Gafaria, who is part of the executive education, continuing education for the University of Waterloo. He's like, man, Brennan, it'd be interesting if we could, maybe do a webinar, make this accessible, talk about education, talk about AI. And the interesting thing is, like, AI and education, like, they go hand in hand, right? Because it fundamentally changes the way that we learn and we know information. I said, Aaron, okay, University of Waterloo. He said, did you know? It's the MIT of Canada. I said, I had no idea, but we have MIT coming, so let's do it. And the final bit of shameless plugs that I'm doing for people is a really good friend, Steffi Chakva. She teaches AI and quantum computing at the University of Oxford, and she brought her boss, who's the Director for Continuing Education for the University of Oxford, Professor Matthew Wheat, and they said, well, we know some things and we're Oxford. Can we join in? And we said, the more the merrier, it would be great. And from there, we just started adding people that shared this common interest. We wanted to go to the drawing board, make it free for the world, so sponsored 100% of it so that it can be globally accessible. We wanted to ensure that it was available in any language. So we got most of them, not all of them. And to show and to turn the head on a global digital conference, we wanted to make sure that the timing that it took off was starting out in Kuala Lumpur time. And from there, a lot of really good ideas and motivation and passion from all of these incredible speakers started to emerge. So we should help people find jobs. We started Starship Seekers. There's many analogies there, hard to keep in the head. But Starship Seekers, where recruiters are going to be available, people just drop in their LinkedIn to denote that they're looking and interested for a job when they register. Starshot Startups, where we're literally giving the startups the stage. So they get to talk about their ideas, they get to pitch them, and we have over $270 billion of private equity and venture capital funds. Many of them are friends. Louis Leho, who is outside of an amazing attorney and great personal friend, is the Silicon Valley partner for Foley and Lardner. They just started something called Foley Ignite. And then finally, like the bad punchline. We're bringing back the idea of this hackathon. We call that Cyber Clash. This is where we get to create people who have no experience with AI, which was some of the staff as of yesterday when we did a dry run, work on creating AI battle bots. The concept of it is that you have 5 people in a room together, loud music blaring, and they work with 10 digital participants, call them Hackmasters. The in-person group are called Field Commanders, and we stick them together. And just like any good project, the more people you add, the more complex it gets. They have to optimize and refine the code, which is drag and drop, which sounds really simple, but it's something that's more complex when implemented. Debug it together. They have a tablet, so they have to show where it is. There's a certain finite amount of time. They're building the bot as high pressure, and whoever wins gets a prize. At least that's what I'm told. So the idea there is to take this concept that ASB loves, action learning, or the MIT idea of mens et manes, mind in hand, hand in mind, in order to hopefully practically show people that it's not all just about coding. In a world full of ChatGPTs and Google Bards, that right now coordination, communication, and caring about those in our immediate environment are those that matter most, and how we can be effective in today's dynamic and ever-changing business world.
This is like so galvanizing that people want to jump in like right now, but it's like, wait a second, it's gonna start in a very few days by the time we are recording. So you mentioned that it's gonna be around the world, and you have like how many people right now registered?
I'm not going to give specific numbers, but what I can tell you is that we've had over 15,000 registrants over a month ago, and that we are peaking right now at about 1,200 active daily site visits, and other participants like Regent University for their cybersecurity department have oversubscribed from the event by a factor of 50, which means that I don't think we have much of an ability to sleep during the day of the event.
This is like what we see in some startups, the problem of scaling, that sometimes when you're scaling too much, you have to overcome all of this demand in order to make things running. And it's quite fascinating that despite all these very nice troubles, because hey, those are very nice troubles to have, still the machine goes.
We looked at this and we questioned, back to that query of, do we cap things? Do we stop things? We're not making any money from this. We're asking people to spend their time, their energy, their effort. And we came back and said, like, we need to sacrifice so that we can bring this message to the world. And that message is something that we're not here to teach people. We're here to help provide a different perspective, and to think of things in a clever way, right? So it's not when you're scaling about, can I, spend all of this capital, the Silicon Valley way of burn bright or burn out, but it was about working with the community in order to have many hands that helped make for short work. Maybe after 18 to 20 hours a day, we're still short on that work, but something incredible happened. Right? I think this is what most people don't attribute to things, which is that they can ask for help. And sometimes people will actually give it. You have to be careful about who's helping. We've had people that try to insert themselves and add sponsorship, which, by the way, the event is completely sponsorship free. But we've had calls with all of the speakers in order to coordinate. And they've joined on. And they've helped promote the event. We've not had to spend a single dollar in advertising. They have helped organize to structure, to time. They've made sacrifices. And I think something incredible happened as a result. We started to see that it became their own. So when the conference is done, we're making it open source. There's nothing proprietary. And the universities can figure out if they want to do a year two. We're just focused on surviving year one. But what we found was they answered the call. And they're not getting paid. We're actually spending money and time and effort. But they wanted to do some pro-social work. They understand that humanity is in a place of great uncertainty. AI can impact and touch up to 70% of the jobs that exist within the next 5 years. The reason why I'm not wearing a white collar rather than a black collar is because those are all, especially white collar jobs. And whilst universities are in the business of charging for their big brains, they said we need as educators to provide calm to guide the ship and to not let the talking heads steer us maybe into a dystopia rather than a utopia. And that removed the bottlenecks. It encourages us to work for 18 to 20 hours to do this, to provide knowledge to anybody around the world, so that we're not telling our story, but we're letting them begin to use these tools to tell their story. And this is really the most critical and important thing that we're doing, and speaks to the caliber of folks that are a part of this. Because actually, maybe I'm a little bit pessimistic about humanity at times, but these are the best of us. And to get to see them share their worldview, their knowledge, and to do it remotely without any expectation of compensation is the fire that drives passion from within, that makes us do this each and every day.
That's remarkable, especially in this current day and age that a lot of people want to say, what can I get from this? Or how can I use this?
You're paying me after this, right?
Well, we're paying you with hugs and likes.
That's a nice ring. I'll take. I'm joking.
Oh, come on. You have to earn this one.
Yeah.
And given all this background, I want to ask you something that happened a little before the Intellect Horizon, which is, given your journey, what made you say, now it's time to go to socialization?
So, I could blame it on the ADHD.
Okay.
That would be a cop-out answer, and say that I just have to keep going places and seeing things and doing. No. Why now? It's a remarkable question. Sometimes I still ask myself that. Before going to Oxford, was traveling for 9 months, just kind of around and exploring the world and whatnot, my place in it. Before that, there I was. I was in Los Angeles penthouse. I said, I made it. And I had all of the things. People told me, oh, you're successful, you have all of the aspirations that you could ever want sorted out, and yet I felt empty. So I walked around I looked at the city, and I said, but I'm not happy. What's holding me back? Because Los Angeles is in a really challenging place. It's mentally draining. They have unhoused crisis with a lot of people suffering, and it's a very, there's no easy answer for them. But I was there, I was walking around, and I just said, this doesn't, what is the Marie Kondo? This doesn't spark joy, right? I said, but I have all this stuff. What am I going to do? So I donated most of it, shipped some stuff to my parents, and decided to immediately fly to Europe. Because I thought, this is it, right? I'll just go to a lot of the historical sites, and maybe that'll have answers and inspiration. During that time, I applied and got different global talent visas to different countries like the UK and Australia, and I just said, okay, now have I done it? Now is this a thing? I spoke to Sanjay, and he said, Brandon, I've gone to Malta, which weirdly enough we missed each other about a week, and he said, I've come and I found myself, and I'm going to go to Malaysia. I said, okay. He's like, maybe we should do something. I said, okay, sure. But then I went to Oxford. The motivation was I was actually curious about the pedagogical differences, and I called my other mentor from MIT, Riza, and I said, Riza, I'm not really inspired. It's more of the same. Just they have a funnier accent. Okay. And I ended up working with a friend from Google, and we kicked off his charity, which has started to flourish, and they're speaking at the conference, and that was over in Africa. And I said, okay, that's a great region, fantastic people, but it's not the complete picture for things. Sanjay called again and he said, okay, Brandon, I'm ready, let's go, let's do this thing. I said, great, I'll help for a nickel. And again, I packed everything up and I flew down here. And back to your question, why? There's an incredible spirit of originality and creativity in Southeast Asia. The abilities of people to think in ways that aren't quite, we'll just say, Chinese, Japanese, and not quite Western, non-Indian, but this original flavor of viewing the world, of, from a culture standpoint, always being optimistic. I don't know how everybody does it. And then one of the most exciting things for me is the creativity of taking limited resources and not doing the Silicon Valley way of burning bright, spending a lot of capital and burning out, but actually being clever about how they're spending their capital, how they're maximizing things, how they're working on ideas and concepts and creating solutions to problems that were already solved but were not applicable or not practical cost-wise. So making it scalable, back to your bottleneck, removing a capital restriction, which is really inspiring. It's not just all about profiteering. And when people come to KL or Kuala Lumpur to see the growth at a staggering and astonishing rate is inspiring each and every day.
That's quite a big picture. that is inviting everybody who's watching this to say, wait a second, something is going on there. You
The
should
food is
check it out."
amazing too. I mean,
Allegedly.
allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, because let's be honest. A way to trigger a Malaysian is the following. Oh, look at that. This sauce is nice. Must be from Thailand. Everybody say yes. We know it. That food is bad. The moment you say this food is nice, should be from Singapore, everybody stands up and is like, what is going on with you, man? But yeah, it's good. It's good. I found the convergence of so many flavors sometimes a little saturating for the uninitiated. You need some experience to actually appreciate most of the plates. I remember like last week, a friend from Germany, she couldn't even finish the plate because for her it was too much. It's like, yeah, you need some experience points.
You know, it just means that you have to practice eating.
That's the only way.
Yeah. Sometimes I say that that's a pastime that I've experienced and enjoyed a little too much, rather than exercising maybe as much as I should outside of my mouth. Do that all the time. But my favorite part here is that you can get any sort of food, any culture, even the local culture. And when going to a restaurant, I just ask the waiter, I say, I'll have what you're having. And I've never been disappointed. So you can go anywhere in the world. And it's funny. Everybody always complains about the politicians, the relationships, and that they don't get enough sleep. The one thing that everybody gets excited about talking about is food. And this is my plug for KL. Some of the best food in the world is here. And maybe even more worryingly, as I found out, you can buy cakes by the kilogram here.
Oh yeah, it's true.
So,
That's true.
yeah.
It's like, I cannot believe you can actually buy by the kilogram. And it's like you can choose and actually assemble a cake of cakes. It's just unique.
We got a whole host of different styles, and they're all beautiful and fantastic and delicious, rather than just being made out of fondant frosting. But tell me about, why did you come to KL?
Oh yeah, I interviewed for MHA when I was shopping for an MBA, and then during that particular time they say, we have this allied program that is based in Kuala Lumpur. We also do action learning there in Southeast Asia. What do you think? It's like, I'm hearing. Yeah.
Go on.
And they say, okay, we're gonna also forward your application there to see what happens. Then I receive a scholarship and the opportunity to work in Singapore, Bangkok, Malaysia for some action learning projects and to discover part of the culture. That was the main trigger to say, yeah, something can be done there. I've never been in this part of the world. Yeah, let's discover something.
And with your background, if I remember correctly, in petroleum engineering,
Oh yes,
you said business
yes,
in Asia.
yeah.
Why?
Because back in 2018, I happened to win a hackathon using blockchain. And then all of a sudden the clients were asking, how can we use blockchain to make money for me? Instead of like, okay, can I get some dividends or things like that? And then that triggers the search for saying, I need to enhance my business skills because I cannot be doing this the whole time. I need also to evolve. I need also to acquire new stuff. So, with that in mind, let's say that almost 10 years of experience in oil and gas, plus what I gathered here, it will lead to something, I believe. Then I realized that the hidden things about Kuala Lumpur and also Southeast Asia for some reason that made me realize, why is that there are not so many foreigners? Why is that they only seek degrees from a particular place? Or who is actually working? And then I realized that, wait a second, there are places and places which are very different from the actual people you deal with. So I needed to actually be more specific by the time we were discussing and discovering things. So the little interviews I've been acquiring
I've been literally outside Malaysia because I can quote friends who really wanted to stay here. It's not that they wanted. It's not that they of course they would love to pay taxes, but they can't. I can recall right now the episode with Tandivi Wando. She's a founder of a brand. She did 4 years of undergrad.
Can we just say, by the way, education, 4 years, when you say it like that, almost sounds like a prison sentence. She did 4 years at ASB,
So,
just got out last Wednesday.
So I have to say that she did 4 years in Kuala Lumpur because she actually fell in love with the ecosystem, and then she adds 2 more years doing MBA. I mean, of course, a person with that age will have opportunities, let's say, professionally, or even why not fall in love with somebody and stay here.
Sure.
Immigration say no. Every single foreign student must go. But for some reason, the expats, they're welcome. It's like they want the taxpayer money. But hey, you have talent here. No, they don't want it. So with that in mind, I began to realize, okay, clear boundaries create good neighbors. So I'm glad to see that right now. So that's why I realized that, well, with that in mind, it's fiduciary to share, this is a good place just to pass by, or a good place to get an expat assignment. But if we want to be serious, there are huge things to be rebuilt here. Another thing that I can share with you, we discuss about entrepreneurship. Recently, Antler opened something, and I was surprised to see how different was the modus operandi of Antler Malaysia and Antler Singapore. In Antler Malaysia, on the final round, I asked how you're gonna do with entrepreneurs from around the world. They say, well, they have to come here, and if they're as a tourist, and then when the days are on, they need to get out and then come back. And I was like, if you excuse me, you're encouraging people to do visa rounds as entrepreneurs. And they were like, yeah, because of immigration system, and it's like, okay, point taken. Then I asked Antler Singapore, and they were like, everybody who enters on a program gets an entrepreneurship pass. So no problem with that. And then I began to ask myself, if somebody comes from Ghana or Nigeria and you only get 15 days, and then there is no way to go because in Singapore they will ask them, oh, they need also a special pass just to enter and then come back. And I realized that there are constraints. For some reason they want entrepreneurs from around the world, but they want certain entrepreneurs for certain parts of the world. And I began to realize that has to be fixed. I don't know, but that's not a problem because what kind of a stake I have here?
Are you saying that the system isn't fair for everybody?
Pretty much. Pretty much. And instead of claiming or just saying, okay, it's better to focus on what you can control. And just to document and to think what is going on. Because then you see authorities coming here asking rhetorical questions. Where are the foreigners? Where are the foreign students? And I'm like, you are kicking them out. So how you can make them even have a chance to answer the question? But hey, to each their own. So as long as there are clear boundaries, we can have good neighbors.
And I think one of the interesting things about Malaysia just recently, this year, is that they've introduced the new digital nomad visa. And so it's exciting to see that a lot of progress is still happening and that people are starting to see that we can attract talent and we can capture that tax revenue. Is maybe not the right reason for a government, but it's a reason for the government to do what they do. They've got to watch that profit margin, that they can attract talent in vibrant cities like KL and do so with people that are visionaries through reduced means of friction. And you also see this within the EU, right? Why? What is one of the pillars of the EU? It's free movement. People with good ideas need to be able to go and meet and connect and build things together. with others that are crazy enough to try. So progress is made, but yeah, we can do better, and I think it's always.
Oh yes, and to add on that point, people may say, "Oh, we don't want these people because they speak different or they look different," but hey, they pay taxes. It's taxpayer money, and more taxpayer money means better social security programs, better access to infrastructure. It's a win-win.
This is one of the biggest public policy challenges for a government, right? Like a corporation, the purpose is to maintain shareholder interest and to make them more money. And the officers are the stewards of that process, hopefully, most of the time. Sometimes they're the stewards of their own success more so than the company. But a government works in a very similar way. It's a difficult and tricky blend of keeping and maintaining the cultural identity, of making sure that your constituents at home are being looked after and taken care of, and trying to not grow too fast. Back to your bottleneck part, where in different locales, be it in LA, which I guess has always seemed to have this problem for the last few decades, to even Dublin, or if we look at even some of the cities like Shanghai, where too many foreign interests can price people out of the market and disadvantage the local populace, which historically hasn't ended well for governments. So I think that they have that balance, and they do it whilst at least half of the population is unhappy with them, statistically. So they have their work cut out for them. But the fact that we're here today, I think, is suggestive that they recognize and identify that different voices and trying to be more diverse and inclusive can make a positive impact. And maybe it's on us to try to live up to those expectations. Or not. We'll let it find out.
That's true. Like, if you don't try, you never know. You have to try. And you mentioned about decisions. And talking about decisions, I remember a quote by Thomas Sowell that they are not final decisions, only compromises, and we can only aspire to have the better compromise. And with that line, I want to ask you, across your journey, which was the most challenging compromise you faced?
Life is about decisions. And I've made a lot of good ones, maybe, and I've made a lot of bad ones. But hindsight is 20/20, and everybody makes the best decisions that they can with the knowledge that they have given the time. This is a rambly way of saying that I don't actually regret or attribute a ranking to the best decisions that I made. I more or less just look at what is it that I'm trying to achieve on a personal level, and how is it that I can get there. So a lot of people will say, since 17 or for 20 years I've had a plan and I've been following it and I've been very good, and I have never had that inclination. Again, ADHD maybe is to blame, but I've had a history of being able to try different things, to taste out different opportunities. Before this, when we were talking, right, I used to do professional interviews for everybody from anime voice actors to, if you can imagine, guys in makeup and dreadlocks, Korn and Rob Zombie. And I would look confused and scared most of the time, I think, is how it was. But then I was told that I needed to get a real job. because entertainment wasn't real. So then I went into the medical field.
Okay.
That was really interesting. I got to travel around the world because I was the only one that was silly enough to actually get on a plane when everybody else was unwilling, and meet and greet and learn the inner workings of the system. I did that until I overworked myself and my head hit the wall, and I said that the universe gave me a facepalm moment. It was super stressful. It was crazy. And you get to find, as they say, how the sausage is made of systems. But it gave me a really good perspective. From there, it's like I got to travel on a journey of creating video games. So back to where I started. But also working on consumer packaged goods, making millions and millions and millions and millions of items that make people's day, hopefully, slightly better. And that's what led me here. The decisions that we make define us. Some decisions at the time might seem like they're better than others, but the only ones that I think I can regret are the ones that I didn't take when I thought I should have. So it's a very vague answer, but in a roundabout way, it's just saying every decision, every moment is a favorite form.
That's a very inspiring, because anybody that can hear this will be like, yeah, it's not like the end of a chapter, but the beginning of a new one.
We make of opportunity what we want. We just underwent a pandemic globally, and it showed us that the human spirit is pretty incredible, that collectively we can come together and accomplish great things, that the digital economy is a thing, it exists, that when we talk about things like digital nomads, it's actually provided more of an opportunity to enable people to travel to places that they wouldn't try, and to risk in ways that they wouldn't normally do. And I think the only regret that somebody can have is letting it's a tricky one, right? But letting their self-doubt dictate whether or not they should do something. Mm-hmm. It's the person that tries to carefully plan everything out, and then they have a heart attack and die the next day. And they said, oh, if only their life flashes before their eyes, if only I could have done this, if only I could have done that, or I didn't take this chance. Decisions, by and far, can have negative consequences, but we want to live our lives in a way where we're feeling like we matter, like the decisions that we make have an impact, that despite our world being about consuming and trying to win as many tokens as we can in this game so that we can exchange it at the prize desk for the really big teddy bear, that we still give them away and we still do things that is countermanding to what we've been instructed. But like good food, that's the flavor of life. Life is to be experienced, it's to be enjoyed, and the Renaissance that happened after the Black Death in Europe created the most imaginative outpourings. When we lock ourselves down to a situation, sunk cost fallacy. I've been doing this for this many years. You shut yourself out to the possibility of trying something new, right? A really good friend that was over at a school in Switzerland called Villars. Very, very successful, multi-generational Bavarian wealth, as they say, said, Brandon, we've been conditioned to think about having to stay in one path and do one thing. And the longer that we spend time on it, the better the results will typically be. And he said, but if you could make one phone call that would make more money for you than 5 years of your life, but you're not going to answer the phone because you're focused on other things, well, who's the greater fool? So you always have to open yourself up to opportunity. You always have to open yourself up to push yourself and to take risks within reason. I have the luxury of getting to make really bad decisions that end up resulting in very marvelous things. But this is also just a mindset of within our daily lives to pause, to reflect, to listen, and to question the path that we're on, because there might be better paths that are before us that we otherwise would miss if we don't take that time to reflect.
The power of reflection and the power also to realize, okay, how my own journey is going on can be two hidden gems that we have been getting from this last answer, which is very singular, because not many times we have the capacity to even have a pause in our day and say, where are we going?
Where are we going? I feel like we're driving the steamship innovation.
We look stationary, but the Earth is actually moving across space.
That's it. The greatest question that we have is, where are we going? When will we get there? That also includes after we die, right? There's great philosophical debates about these things, and nobody has the right answer that fits for you, and by you I mean the version of you that's sitting here right now, except for yourself. And so I think you want to be wary of people that say that they have answers, and that they know the truth, because we have our own subjective reality, and we need to ask ourselves, why are we doing what we're doing? Is it fulfilling to us? Are we enjoying ourselves? And also this thing that I think the younger generations, this is where I get to start to sound like an old person, back in my day, but is this path that I'm on, is this thing that I'm doing, is this version of me the one that I want to be, right? In the past, people say, oh, I've worked 30 years at this place and I've not done anything else. And that works for some people. Man, I don't think I could do that. I think I'm a different person every day. And I try to not have a singular identity that drives my life. And really want to know, maybe one day I'm doing video games, the other I'm doing medical devices, the other I'm doing consumer packaged goods, the other I'm just in a random small village in Turkey climbing a mountain. These are all versions of me that appeal to the person that I was and also create the person that I am today, and the future version that will be different from the one that's sitting here right now.
From all those Brandons of the past,
Sounds terrifying, by the way, all the Brandons of the past.
that helped you build the Brandon of what is today, which is the one that you have been feeling the most comfortable?
I would say the one that's right now. But maybe the Brandon in the future will say, no, this version is Brandon version 34 will be better than Brandon version 33. So it's unique in the sense that I think I've just gotten over trying to please other people, and I just do what I want. And what I want is to try to help people and humanity. I try to work on helping myself, like we have been taught societally to do, and didn't find it to be motivating for me. And we'll see how that goes. We'll see how the conference goes, and we'll see how Southeast Asia goes. But so far, nothing to question, to regret, and to feel uncomfortable with. What version of Fabian? Let's go back to you, right? Which version of you would you say has been the most influential on the trajectory of your life?
That brave guy from 2012, because that guy had a decision to make, and I remember it was April 3rd, 2012. I was invited to do an interview for an opportunity that will literally change my life.
So you're seeking revenge by interviewing others.
No, really. It's just to learn how is other cosmovisions people, other side guys from all around the world, because when you only have your own thoughts, there can be an echo chamber. And it's better to be out of those echo chambers. So going back to that question that you asked, that guy in 2012 literally had to drive around 3 hours to pass 2 rounds of interviews, even one gauntlet version where there was a lot of people just waiting to see when can I falter.
And these were school interviews?
That was a job interview.
A job interview.
And I got that offer at the end of the day, but the problem is I had to drive from Houston to College Station in the middle of a storm. So imagine the bravery to handle a very small 1997 Mazda Protege across the highway around 90 miles per hour, and you see all the storm coming against you. And literally I felt the cold chill of that, until all of a sudden from my left side I see a big truck with very neon colors that was about to literally break the wind, and give me enough space to go, okay, I can finish the drive, just follow the truck. And by the time I arrived to College Station, I was like, yeah, I made it. The next day I realized that the tires were not in good condition after all the friction that happened during the storm, and I received the next follow-ups to finally execute the offer. So then the rest is history. Then I did the summer internship that led me to a full-time offer, and then the opportunity to, okay, I can continue the career here. And then next thing I knew, I received a sign-up bonus that funded this stuff here. So
You've got the bling.
pretty much, because right there in Texas A&M, you get the ring, but you need to be eligible to get a ring, which is, if you are doing a master's, show me you defend the thesis. And it's like, okay, now you are eligible to do that. So that version of 2012 was a little too brave for its own health, but he was able to make it. The other version that came close to him was February 15, 2021, the ice storm in Houston. Literally, that day was so terrible because the polar vortex opened in the north, and then all of a sudden the south was facing a lot of very low temperatures. The infrastructure was not ready to deal with ice on the road. And next thing you know, electricity was gone. Next thing you know, people were doing lines outside the supermarkets just to get bread, and the supply chain was interrupted. And once the ice and the snowing fell and went away, the temperature was still so low, minus 14 Celsius degrees. So even when everything was with the sun, it couldn't melt the ice because it was still too chill. And I saw the news of a lot of people getting intoxicated with their own CO2 inside the cars because they couldn't even have a warm place to be. Very difficult. But yeah, that's where the bravery comes, to help other people in that particular day. So those were moments that I realized that, yeah, it's good to have that spec and to build upon.
Sure. This is where they say, feel the fear and do it anyways. And
That's where real bravery is.
yeah. And it's a fine line between bravery and stupidity.
Yes.
But we'd like to say that it was all part of the plan.
All part of the grand design.
Yeah. It went according to schedule, so nothing to worry about. You knew, driving 90 miles an hour in a crazy storm, that it was all going to be fine.
Well, because that was a minimum speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the minimum speed of the highway, Highway 6.
Okay. That's exciting. And do you feel like that had a greater impact on shaping your drive? Or what made it, in your mind, a fundamental memory that you say this was a defining point of maybe who I am today?
Because not many people have that chance. Because when they see that, it's like other day, or they just don't want to jump into this. Sometimes comfort zones can be a little too comfortable.
Yeah. And
And if you allow me to interrupt, it's not because I wanted to jump in to do it. There was no other choice.
it's necessity is the mother of all creation. Or fidget spinners. I'm not sure which is which, but what can you do?
It aligns to the narrative.
Yeah, there we go. It's all fidget spinners are the most important thing, maybe.
Tell me something. When you were doing these particular self-reflections, I wanted to ask about those versions from the past. That John Brandon, how he decided, yeah, I should take the path of going to Oxford instead of other choices. Can you tell us how was that thing?
There wasn't really a lot of thought process behind it.
Okay.
So if you were to look at my life and all of the different universities and all of the different programs and all of the different companies and even the fact that I'm here, it would look to somebody from the outside like it was very meticulously and well planned. Like it was all part of the agenda, but it wasn't. I just wanted to open myself up to opportunity. So I mentioned ADHD. The other thing I have is Asperger's, which means that social interaction is very different and unique, and I also have to have routines and systems, and I have a very weird way of prioritizing and thinking about things. So that means on the one hand I have structure, and the other hand I have the ability of looking at random things to keep my mind active and satisfied. So they're a constant war with one another. And my motivation is, does that sound like it would be fun? So I'll answer your answer with a segue, which is that I had wanted to understand. This is hence the Asperger's, right? I wanted to understand if people were given an opportunity to succeed in something, that we were able to remove the barriers of what they felt were holding them back from being successful, what would happen? I said, great, I'll find 10 people that want to go to school, and I will pay for all of their courses for the first semester. Think of it as a scholarship, and if they finish, then from there, I'll pay for their entire education. It came to my surprise that none of them made it past the first semester. It was shocking. So you hear about all these stories about, people and students just don't have the opportunity. It's far more complex than that. We have to break down narratives that we're told that hold us back. That if I just had this investment in my company, I could be successful. If I just had the opportunity to go to MIT, my life would be different. And then we create demons that say, but I couldn't do it because of X. And that's what drives us. It's very hard for us to look into the mirror and to say, I've got to go drive 90 down a highway in order to accept something. That I have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to push myself. But even deeper, societally, we're taught, by and large, that we can't ask for help, that we have to be individualistic, and that we need to do things that are risk adverse and safe. And so the mental psychology that we face is what mediates a lot of the decisions we make. So when we were joking, it all goes back to childhood at the start of this. In many ways it does. And the challenge is, how do we overcome that? And for me, I try to not hold anything too dear. Those that I do, which are people rather than things or places, I hold very, very close. But I ask myself, am I having fun? Right? Growing up, it's like, do you want to go study in the UK at the University of Sussex? Okay, let's do it. Do you want to do oceanographic research whilst sailing on a tall ship in the Caribbean? I'm there. You apply for scholarships, you cast a wide net rather than trying to spearfish, and you pull it in and you see what your opportunities are, and then you take one that seems fun. I think oftentimes we lock ourselves in this notion that I can only have this one option. If this one option doesn't work, then life is not going the way that we planned. And people actually really break down. They have difficulty with this. I'm just amazed that I could get up in the morning. I'm like, wow. And if I can get breakfast, eat a kilogram of cake, well, maybe not that last, 50-50 on eating a kilogram of cake to start the day. But like, that's more than enough. And then just opening yourself up to the possibility of the world. Does this enable my career? Does this make me more tokens to say that I'm more successful so that people will praise me because I care about that? I mean, fortunately, I haven't cared about what people think about me. But again, that's the neurology, and I know that not everybody has that mindset. But I just look and say, great, out of the 100 conversations that I'm having, this one seems like the most interesting. The money comes after. The success comes after. But the moment of enjoying in the now and trying out different things, different universities, different opportunities, different companies, different foods. This is something that it's more of a split decision sort of a thing. There's not a lot of thought that goes behind that. And it's probably horrible investment advice and horrible advice for a lot of people that can't risk. And nonetheless, it's what I've done, and somehow ends me up on the hot seat on the red couch talking to you, which is fun, exciting, and most interesting and exciting opportunity so far.
This is very welcoming to realize all of these angles that leads towards this particular moment. A lot of people will be watching this. Among them there will be a lot of John Brandons.
No, we don't want that.
And they may be asking, like, what piece of advice will be for your younger self?
Do what makes you happy. Also, don't be a young Brandon. In my case, be the person that you want to be, and think about the things that you want to do and do it. Don't question. When you question the decisions that you're making, whether or not they're bad decisions or good decisions. Hindsight is 2020, and we're always the hero of our own story. So we're always making the decisions that we feel we should at the time. Don't self-doubt. Indecision is a decision unto itself, and we give ourselves the illusion that if we don't do anything, that somehow it gets taken care of. And the second one is try not to be pessimistic about humanity too much. When you're doing a lot of things that can be seen as successful or flashy or whatever it is, you'll have elements that will try to discourage you, will make you doubt what you're doing, if you should be doing it. Will say that there's no possible way that if you screw up that you can't continue on, that your life will be over. That might be true for drugs or murder or something like that, but by and large, they will weigh you down until you're successful. Then they'll try to say that they were always there, or they'll try to take advantage of you. And as an individual, everybody has a pretty good sense of self. They just have to empower themselves to listen to that voice and to that gut instinct that they have, and that'll guide them into success. So yeah, it's more listen to yourself before you listen to others.
Brandon, I really enjoyed this. This is a very nice way to close the episode. How people can find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn. I don't really have any other social media or identity. It's linkedin.com/in/STRACOS, Stracos. But other than that, I'll be haunting the halls of ASB for some time, running around like a crazy person trying to get the conference ready, and of course, being with you, Fabian, in the hot seat, talking about how it all began in childhood, and how that shaped our identities, and how we didn't have enough cake as a child.
Oh yeah, the injustice of life, isn't it?
That's it. It's just so much to eat and not enough time.
Oh yeah. Thank you very much, Brandon. I really enjoyed doing this.
Appreciate it.
And for people out there, please stay safe and see you when I see ya. Bye.